Welcome to this new how-to. In this how-to we're going to look at how you can use the Autopilot in an Airbus H135. The version of the helicopter we're going to use is the latest version, which has been released yesterday, which is version 0.91, and contains several adjustments. One of them is I would say it's not an adjustment, but it's something nice, is one of the liveries which is now being default of the helicopter, which is this air ambulance from the country Norway. So let's go inside and let's have a look at it. So one of the things which I didn't discuss was this nice iPad view which you can enable. By default it's, I would say, shown like this. So it's closed and you can open it by simply clicking on it. And that contains the same functionalities as the Garmin systems which are seen here. Although some of them are a little bit limited. For example, there's something which is visible here is the Autopilot functionality with the rotor trim, torque trim, and the GTC, which are not available on this screen. Also not sure how functional they are currently. I saw that the GTC on ground shows you some information. For example, if you fly too fast, it will show you some information. But the rotor trim and torque trim, I'm not so sure if they are already implemented, but maybe that will come in the future. But as mentioned already, the Autopilot is the main part which we're going to discuss, and that's this piece, which is currently the functional part of the Autopilot. So let's first go airborne and then activate some stuff. So I'm gonna look at all ends to make sure that we're not close to someone. It looks all fine, although there's a fire truck going from behind. So we're gonna increase the throttle. And then we're gonna increase the altitude. So one of the things you can do is you can set the altitude, and you can set the altitude by using these two buttons. Well, let me zoom in a little bit closer. And if you click on those buttons, you will see that the altitude here starts to increase on the altitude meter. So let me set it to 2500, and then when we set it to Alt, it will enable it. So it will be a selected mode altitude. And once we press the AP button, you will see that it will start to increase. It will take some time until we hit the 2500, but that's not an issue. One of the other things you can do is you can modify the heading, right? And the heading is, if we start moving it by using this button or the minus, you can see that the blue cursor starts to move. So let's assume that we want to go east. Once set, we can press heading, and you will see it is, I would say, kind of resetting the Autopilot, and then it will turn to the configured heading. So that's all nice. You can see that the speed remains almost zero, right? So it now increases a bit. Keep that in mind. If you are not on the, let's say, requested or configured altitude yet, it could result in that the aircraft will not do anything until you set the heading, or you define, I would say, a flight plan, and then use the nav option, right? Because that's the other option you can use. There's also another thing, which is the ATT, and the ATT, if you use that one, it will automatically switch off the heading and switch off the nav mode. So that will only focus on the altitude. If we select heading again, it will start using the heading again. It will automatically switch off the ATT mode. So keep that in mind. So I'm gonna leave ATT on. And what we're gonna do in the meantime is we're gonna configure a small flight using the functionalities here. So we're gonna say a flight plan, and then we do a direct to. Let's first look at the nearest Let's go to the nearest VOR channel on VOR. Let's go to follow. And then say direct to activate. And then go back to the other screen. Whoa. Sorry for all the blinking. So one of the things which is still, I'm not sure if it's a bug, is still that you see that the activate after a forward fuel pumps. So you need to enable them if you didn't, or if you press the Ctrl E key, right, which normally starts the engines, will not automatically start it. So currently we're almost at the heading configured. As you can see, we're almost at 2500. So let's have a look what happens at that specific altitude. You can see it starts to, let's say, move a little bit weird. And in this case, it starts to decrease the altitude again because we're going too far, too high. It starts to blink here, and hopefully it will start to decrease. Although I saw some weird issues with this also when flying. So let me switch to the nav mode, but before doing that we need to change the option to not use nav 1 but to use the GPS. And you can do that by pressing this button. So we set it to GPS, and now we set it to nav mode, and you will see it makes a weird move, but the developers are aware of that, and they will fix it. So it's now starting to increase speed. You can see for some reason that it doesn't, I would say, pay attention to the altitude too much. It now starts to decrease, so keep that in mind. It's not, I would say, once you set the altitude, it will directly stay at the altitude. One of the options to prevent that is by setting the altitude and then, I would say, go to the flight level yourself and then switch on the altitude option. That mostly works. As you can see, it currently decreases, so that's fine. In the meantime, we're going to also decrease the torque, because it's a little bit too high. Go to the 70, below 70. So this is how you can use this functionality, right? So you can see there are several options which you can do. So there are also options here to set course 1 and course 2. But I think based on what I saw, they are not really functioning yet. Maybe that comes into, I would say, next view or next version of the helicopter. Now it starts to level out on the altitude. And this is how the autopilot works, right? So it's pretty limited compared to, let's say, one of the larger airliners, but it's really easy to use and really nice to use. And the reason I'm saying it is because if you fly long times with the helicopter, you might find out, okay, hey, I want to fly via the autopilot because I want to fly a specific flight plan. Then this autopilot is really useful. Hopefully some of the functionalities will be added, like maximum speed, etc. Although I'm not sure if the normal Airbus H135 has those options. So passengers also are nicely sit back and relax, and they enjoy the flight. So here ends this video. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, then consider to use the like button. If you've got questions or comments, feel free to post the comments below the video in the comment box. And if you want to stay up to date about new videos I'm posting, then consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.